Good afternoon, and welcome back to LI's studio. I'm Kyle Bechet, Communications Manager here at the Leadership Institute. For today's free live webinar, we'll be talking about how to optimize your online fundraising. Our guest today will be Tim Kachuriak. He is the founder of Next After. He is joining us all the way from Texas, so we thank him for flying halfway across the country for joining us today. As always, you can ask questions at this webinar emailing us at live@leadershipinstitute.org or tweeting at us using the hashtag LIWebinar or tweet at us using LeadershipINST. With that, let's get right to Tim. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Kyle, thank you for having me here today, and everybody, thank you for making time out of your schedules to join us for this live webinar here from Leadership Institute Studios. I want to start by telling you a little bit of a story. So about 5 years ago, I attended a conference that literally changed the direction and velocity of my career. At the time, I was working for a direct response agency out of Dallas, and they sent me to my very first MEC Labs Optimization Summit. And it was at this MEC Labs Optimization Summit that I first met Dr. Flint McLaughlin. And Flint is one of the most interesting people you will ever meet, and one of the most brilliant marketers I've ever come across in my life. So much so that he's actually reinvented the profession and says that the marketer is the chief philosopher of any organization. And MEC Labs has been pioneering some of the work in optimization science with organizations all over the world. And they have performed over 10,000 different experiments where they have tested different ways of marketing, and they have codified this. And through some of their tests and experiments, they have learned significant things. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm soaking all this in at this conference. And they're talking through this email optimization heuristic, where email marketing effectiveness equals relevance times offer plus incentive minus friction minus anxiety. And Flynn is explaining how there's different types of factors that come up in our marketing. There are value factors, relevance, offer, incentive. And then there are inhibitors to our marketing, things that slow people down and perhaps even stop them dead in their tracks, like friction and anxiety, these psychological barriers that stop people from converting. And so I'm sitting there and I'm soaking all this in, and it's kind of like piquing the inner geek inside of me. And I'm one of those kind of people, as soon as I learn something new, I can't wait to try it out. So I remember at the very first break we came to the conference, I called my team and I said, hey guys, get ready because we're going to change the way we do everything when I get back on Monday. And I said, you know what, let's not wait till Monday. Let's start right now. And at the time, we were working with the George W. Bush Presidential Center in Dallas, and we were doing donor acquisition. We're renting email lists, and if any of you have done this, you know that this can be a tough row to hoe. And so we were getting ready to send out an email blast to about 200,000 subscribers the next day. And I said, guys, give me an hour. Let me take this email, our long-standing control. Let me spend some time playing with this optimization methodology. And let me see if I can come up with a new treatment that we can test out. And so I'm staring at this email marketing effectiveness index, and I'm staring at my control, and I'm trying to figure out, what do I need to change in this email? And as often happens when we're kind of trying something new, we tend to be a little bit afraid, and I kind of chickened out. So in the end, I really only made one tiny change to the email. To the very last sentence. Now, if you read best practice guides, you know that they say only 18% of people read to the end of an email. So how can making one tiny change, and albeit to the final sentence of an email, really make a material difference? But nonetheless, we made that change. We sent out 100,000 to the control version of the email, 100,000 to the new treatment. And that one change translated into a 139% increase in click-through, which produced a 42% increase in revenue.
Just by changing the last sentence?
Just by changing the last sentence.
Wow.
And it was at that moment that I was completely hooked, and I decided then and there I'm going to spend the rest of my life optimizing things. And so that's what we do. And we started doing more and more of these experiments, and I started to go to more and more of these conferences. I wanted to continue to learn more and just immerse myself in the minutia of optimization logic and decision science and some of these new fields that are emerging. And that's where a very unlikely friendship began. So meet Brad Davies. He is my nemesis. So at the time, he was my direct competitor. And Brad and I were working for two competing agencies. We competed over the same kind of customer segment. And I started seeing Brad show up at these conferences. I said, Brad, this is my thing. You got to go find your own thing, right? And it was kind of a joke. But Brad and I started to discover that we had a lot in common. And we started to look at ourselves as not competitors anymore, but as, as there can't be competition among lighthouses, we're serving nonprofits together. And we're trying to help them do a better job of raising more funds so that their organizations can have more impact. And Brad and I started to say, man, how can we share our learnings? How can we kind of learn from each other and really kind of speed up our process as we're learning about this new science of optimization? So that's what we did. And then we had one of those kind of once upon a cocktail napkin moments, where at the end of one of these conferences, and you know how this goes, at the end of a very long day, we're sitting over a cup of an adult beverage, perhaps, and Brad and I were having a conversation. And we said, how do we provoke a conversation about optimization in the nonprofit space? Because we didn't see it taking place. I mean, we saw little pockets of it here and there. And so we came up with this idea of doing a study. We said, let's go out and let's survey 151 nonprofit organizations. Let's start with the Chronicle of Philanthropy, the 400 top organizations. Let's pick 100 out of there, and then we picked 50 other ones that we were interested in. And we said, instead of interviewing the people that work at the organization, let's interview the websites themselves, right? Let us approach this from a donor's point of view, and let's try to kind of peer inside the minds of a donor and look at what they're looking at. And so that's exactly what we did. What we did is we set up a process where we went out to all these different organizations. We signed up to receive emails from them. And then we watched our inbox to see what would happen. When they began sending us emails, that we captured every single email. We time date stamped it, and we analyzed every single email. We waited for an opportunity to give. So we waited for them to ask us to give money. When they asked us to give, we gave a $20 donation to every organization that asked us. And then we kind of scored the online donation process, and we scored the thank you process.
In terms of the scoring being like, how easy is it, how user-friendly, I guess is the better word, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, exactly. What we're doing, we were focused on 4 key areas. Okay. So we said if an organization is going to be successful raising funds online, they need to be growing their email list consistently. So we scored the email registration process. We said, well, they need to be communicating effectively via email, so we scored the email process. And then we said, well, let's look at the donation process and see how they approach the aspect of actually getting a donor to give a gift. We scored that process. And then we also scored the thank you and the follow-up process. And we based all of this on the MEC Labs heuristics, the Email Marketing Effectiveness Index, which talks about relevance, offer incentive, friction, and anxiety being the inhibitors in the process. And we gave them positive points for the value factors and negative points for the inhibitors. And we scored that across this email messaging sequence: capture, open rate, click-through rate, landing page. And it was pretty interesting, the results, some of the things that we learned. The first thing we learned is that the test was perhaps too hard. And most organizations, when we just actually scored them based on where their scores fell, a lot of folks failed. So we had to grade on a curve. So that was lesson number 1. And when we did that, we noticed that there were certain organizations, certain classes of organizations that did better than others. Okay? So we found at the head of the class, we had animal welfare, political candidates. Even though they're not true nonprofits, they operate as nonprofits, right. So we decided to look at them. Environmental and wildlife, public affairs, and public broadcasting were at the head of the class. And at the bottom of the class were Jewish organizations, Christian ministries, performing arts and libraries, hospitals and associations and memberships. So one of the things that we discovered is that different verticals seem to perform differently.
Interesting.
In this study. And what I'd like to do is walk us through each of these 4 different sections. So let's start with the very basic. When somebody first comes to the website, one of the things that we want them to do is obviously give a gift, but if they're not going to do that, we want them to at least raise their hand and signify that they're actually interested in the content that we're offering and give us permission to continue the dialogue by giving us their email address. So we looked at the email sign-up process. First thing we discovered on a positive side, that 3 out of 4 organizations have an email sign-up opportunity that you can locate from their homepage within 10 seconds. We felt that that was a pretty good hurdle. If it takes longer than 10 seconds, I'm probably not going to see it. I'm probably out of there.
Right.
I mean, the negative side is that 1 out of 4, we couldn't locate an email sign-up opportunity. So I would give that kind of, that was a positive thing. We're happy to see that. Here's where it gets a little bit interesting. We scored the email sign-up opportunity. So when somebody asks you to give you their email address, there is a value exchange that takes place, right? We're asking them for something that it represents significant value to them, their contact information. In exchange, we're going to give them something, right? What is that something? How do we communicate what that something is? Is it an email newsletter? Who needs more email newsletters in the inbox? Not this guy, right? Okay, and that's what most people. So we started to score the value proposition associated with the email sign-up offer. The first one we looked at is desirability. Is this something that has high interest, low interest, or no interest to the potential ideal donor? We found that 66%, so essentially, 2/3 of folks actually, had an email sign-up offer that was not very appealing.
Right. It didn't offer them an incentive to have that email.
Yeah, the perceived value was not high. We also looked at exclusivity, and what we concluded is I can get a crappy newsletter anywhere, right? So 84% of the organizations that we looked at had an email sign-up opportunity that, basically to us conveyed that I can pretty much get this anywhere. So why should I sign up for it, right? And so just to show you, because this is a little bit subjective, and I understand, that might cause concern, and I want to have us as an exercise together. We can actually go through the process of scoring a couple of emails that showed up in the study.
Sounds fun.
Does that sound good, Kyle?
Let's do it.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the desirability of the email sign-up offer.
Okay.
We're going to look at the exclusivity of the email sign-up offer, and we're going to rank the ideal, and in this case, donors' level of desire for that offer.
Right.
And we're going to rank the exclusivity associated with that offer. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So let's look at this first one. I have blurred out the identity of the organization to protect them. But this is an actual screenshot from one of the organizations that we studied in the study. And you will see that right here on the right-hand side, so,
we have a nice little
subscribe box, right, exactly. Now let me read that to you. It says, subscribe, we offer 2 newsletters, enter email, and join, okay? Now think about the ideal donor, okay, to this organization. And you don't even know what kind of organization it is, which is fine. If they were presented with that offer, and would you say that they have a no interest, possible interest, or high interest based on what they're communicating to you about the offer?
If all I'm getting is a newsletter, I probably don't have much interest in that.
Okay, let's be generous and give them a 1.
Probably
okay?
a 1.
Would you say that? Okay.
Yeah, 1, around a 1.
Some interest?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do the same thing with exclusivity, okay? Is this something, based on what they're communicating about the offer, that you believe that you could get anywhere else on the internet, somewhere else on the internet, or nowhere else on the internet?
Well, if I go through my inbox and judging by the amount of newsletters I have, it's probably not that, I would not say it's that exclusive.
Okay, so let's be generous and give them a 1.
But again, I will give them a 1.
Okay, so we'll take 1 times 1, and what we want to do is we want to multiply these 2 integers. If the score is less than 2, it suggests we probably don't have a very strong value proposition, okay? And that means that we probably want to do some things to optimize that.
Something a little bit more compelling.
So you folks, if you're watching this at home, this is a tool that you can use, and this is one of your assignments, by the way, afterwards, is to take this tool and go to your own website and score the desirability of your email sign-up offer and the exclusivity of your email sign-up offer. Now let's look at another example, okay? This organization allowed us to use their identity. Right here in the center is the email sign-up opportunity. Become an insider. Get instant free access to past episodes and extended teaching when you sign up to become a cross-examined insider. Okay? And there's actually a click-through. By becoming a CE Insider, you will receive special behind-the-scenes, including footage of the making of, extended teaching and interviews from, an insider sneak peek at, a virtual backstage pass, complete unlimited access to past episodes, a subscription to our content-packed weekly newsletter, and much, much more. Now, let me ask you the same exact question. Desirability, 0, 1, or 2?
I would give that 2. I mean, if I'm getting something exclusive, then that it's giving me something to have a benefit. This is more benefit rather than a feature of the site.
We are conveying a value proposition at the point of sign up. So I would give this a 2 as well, which is what we scored it. And on the exclusivity side, is this something you get anywhere else, somewhere else, or nowhere else?
If I'm getting a behind-the-scenes interview or what have you, then that's absolutely a 2. I'm not going to get that anywhere else.
Excellent. And by the way, this is not scripted. This is Kyle answering, impromptu.
Yeah, I was not told this before we started.
So that's good. No, that's exactly how we scored it as well. So you can see that even though there is some subjectivity here, it's pretty plain as day when you actually kind of put it through this grid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that we looked at. So then we said, okay, great, we're on these people's list now. Let's see what they send us. And we started asking some questions of the data. The first question we asked of the data that we began to collect is this. If I sign up or receive emails to an organization, what might I expect to receive in the first 30 days? Surprisingly, we found that we didn't get a whole heck of a lot, right? So 37% of organizations did not send us a single email in the first 30 days after sign up, right? Nothing. Nada. Zero, right? Nothing.
Why would somebody want to sign up for something that they're not going to, I wouldn't want my email out there if I'm not going to get any value in return. So not seeing anything within 30 days seems to be a waste of my time.
And you think about, like, when is the best time to engage with somebody? It's at the point where they first kind of establish that connection.
In their mind.
Exactly. So that was shocking to us, especially since we're looking at 100 of, like, the top largest organizations on the planet, right? So that was kind of interesting. The other question we said, we've been talking about these things called welcome series or conversions or whatever you want to call them, like an automated trigger-based kind of, let's welcome them to the organization. How many organizations do you think actually do it?
Wow.
Yes, wow is right. So 88% of the organizations did not have any evidence of a welcome series in place when a new subscriber comes into the file.
Interesting. So they literally, no thank you for signing up, nothing like that?
We did see some thank yous.
Okay.
It's kind of like the autoresponder
The
thank you
automatic
message.
response.
But we didn't see any sort of kind of like, let's connect the dots between this initial issue you came in on to the wider aspect of the organization. So that was kind of interesting and surprising and frankly, a little bit disappointing. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not rocket science. Most email service providers, you had MailChimp up earlier today.
Yes.
MailChimp has autoresponder systems built into it. It's very simple to do from a technology standpoint. Why are we not doing this, right? Question 3, how long after subscribing do organizations start asking for money? So this is where it gets a little interesting if we're talking about fundraising.
Right.
You would expect that these organizations that literally need donor dollars to be able to support the operations and the projects of their organization, that they would, give people an opportunity to give, right? I mean, isn't that the point?
You have to make the ask. If you don't make the ask, then nobody's going to give.
Exactly. We have not because we asked not. So after the first 30 days, only 37% of organizations actually asked us to give a gift. After 60 days, it only went up by 5% to 42%. And after 90 days of waiting around, we only had 44% of organizations ask us to give a gift. So we see
over
that
half are not asking within a month.
We look at these like kind of industry statistics that say, oh, only 10% of giving is coming in through online, so why should I invest in it? Well, the reason why only 10% is because we're not taking advantage of these opportunities that we have before us. So, just simple takeaway here, ask. I mean, these are, give them a compelling reason to give, but ask them to give to your organization. So that was kind of a simple takeaway. Getting people to click. So this is interesting. We looked at the emails and we said, how many people have multiple conflicting calls to action in an email? And we found that about a third of organizations are sending out emails where there's a lot of different things to do. And we know that when we give people, opportunity to make, how should I say this, unsupervised decisions, that they sometimes have a hard time making a decision, right? So one of the things we can do is just simplify our emails by just single focused, laser focus on one single.
Right. Yeah, like what here at the Leadership Institute, what we do is say, sign up for this training, and that's all we're asking for in a particular recruitment email, or if we get email our donors, we're saying, donate for this reason.
Exactly. Single call to action in an email. This is a little bit scary, okay? So the mobile thing is not going away, folks. More and more people are reading emails on their mobile device. In fact, there was a Good Mail study, 2013, 61% of people are reading at least some of their messages on email. That percentage is going up and up and up. 54%, so more than half of the organizations that we surveyed had emails that were not optimized for a mobile device. There's pinching and zooming and all kinds of finger permutations required in order to be able to read that message. Not good. Think about designing mobile first, right? If it works on mobile, it can work on the big screen, right? Exactly. So that was kind of some of our initial takeaways, and I thought this was really interesting stuff. I mean, this is good stuff. This is good practical things that we can do today to start improving our results tomorrow. So as far as email goes, there's some interesting stuff there. So then we took it a step further and said, okay, what does the online giving process look like? Okay, how do people actually inspire us to give a gift? And the first, this is kind of a cute one, right? So everyone remembers the commercial with the Tootsie Pop thing from the 80s, and how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll Center? So yeah, we had how many clicks does it take to get through a donation process, right? I mean, how many steps is it required? Because one of the things that we've discovered is that friction is one of the biggest low-hanging fruit areas inside of most of our giving programs, right? Just removing some of those barriers to the donor giving their gift online. 65% of the organizations that we surveyed require more than 3 clicks. Now, that 3 may not be exorbitant, but where do you draw the line? You see 6, 7, 8. I mean, we're making people have to go through a series of hoops as it relates to processing giving a gift online. And so just to kind of like paint the picture and really drive this point home, I have a visual example I'd like to walk through. Sure. Because friction, we can define it a couple different ways. The marketing definition of friction is anything that causes psychological resistance to a given element in the whatever sales process, donation process, what have you. But in order to really understand it, I think you need to experience it, and experience it through the eyes of the donor. So I'm going to pick on World Vision. I use this example all the time because this website doesn't exist anymore. This is from several years back, and to my knowledge, they don't have a donation process that works like this today. But World Vision, it's over $1 billion a year nonprofit, very large group, and this is a microsite for one of their fundraising campaigns. And if you look at it, there's lots of stuff going on that page, right? But if you came there with the intent of giving a gift, where would you go?
Probably I would click the donate tab at the top.
Good. It took you a second or two to kind of orient yourself, right? But you're very clear. Up in the upper right-hand corner, there is a donate button. So we'd click on that. That's the right thing. So clicking on that then takes you to this page. Now what?
I see a lot of words.
There's a lot of words.
I see a sign up now tab.
Okay. What is that? What for? Yeah, right? I mean, you click donate. Where your donations go, thank you, that's helpful, but that's not what I want to do. I want to donate. Search for a student group, what does that mean? You know? For participants, click here. To search for a group, click here. Ask your question, okay, 1-800-7-FAMINE, how do I donate? Right? Is that like my lifeline? Or,
phone a friend here.
Exactly. So there's all kinds of stuff here. Believe it or not, where you need to click is this little
thing down there.
Text link. You can't even see it, right? It's under the section, Other Ways to Give. Well, I thought donate would be a primary way to give.
Other ways to give. Interesting.
Discover more ways to help. That's intuitive, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Kyle, you don't have to lie to me. So you click on Discover More Ways to Help, and it takes you to this page. Okay, so at least now I see a button that aligns with my intent.
Okay.
To donate now, I click on that, and it takes me to a different website. There is this kind of, different look and feel, moment of reorientation. Where am I at? What am I trying to do? How do I do it? And I'm like, okay, yeah, $30, donate now. And then it does something strange. It puts it in a shopping cart, which I think is odd because I want to sponsor a child. I don't want to buy one. Right? So I guess I need to check out, whatever. Then it says now you need to create an account. So I fill out some information, I hit continue, I fill out more information, I hit continue, more information, I hit continue, more information. I've clicked 10 times, Kyle, right? And then I finally hit this button that says submit your donation, as if I need to like bow down before the lords of marketing and admit that they have conquered us once again. So I hit the submit button. This is the experience that the donor experienced. We exasperate them.
I would have given up probably on the third click.
On the third click, yes.
As you mentioned.
And so if we think about it, if we love our donors, and if we want to show them that love, we can actually make it easier for them to give. So just removing some of the steps and the barriers to giving a gift can have tremendous impact on the number of people that actually give gifts. And so I want to walk you through a model. So if you think about like the difference between for-profits and nonprofits, when you give a gift online, it is different than ordering a product online. When you order a product online, you go to Amazon or whatever, right? You go and you go through a process, and then you get your book in the mail the next day from it. It's amazing, right? You know what I mean? Like the benefit comes second. When you give a gift online, the process is a little bit different, right? The benefit often comes first. It's an intangible benefit experienced in the heart and the mind of the donor, right? Where they, they feel blessed, they feel inspired, they're compelled with an opportunity to have significance and make a difference in the world, right?
Right.
So giving a gift online should not feel like ordering a product online. So let me walk you through what I call the spark line of a donation. This is not a scientific thing. This is just me observing what happens in the online donation process and trying to represent it visually. Okay, so this blue line that you'll see here represents the status quo. This is where our donors, in fact, live. This is where all of us live, right? In order to get somebody to give a gift, I need them to go from the status quo to interest to involvement to investment. They need to move through these different stages, okay?
Right.
But we live in the
Through
status quo.
building a relationship with them,
That's
through
right.
contact.
That's right. But we live in the status quo.
Right, exactly.
Okay? So I need an interrupter. I need something that is going to arrest their attention and begin that process of building interest for my offer.
Okay.
Right? Okay? So that interest builds until it reaches what I call the engagement point. This is where they decide, yes, I'm going to click. Yes, I'm going to open. Yes, I'm going to read. Whatever it is the next step in the journey. That is the engagement point. Okay? So we need to arrest the attention. We need to build interest in order for them to say yes to this next step. You see how we're talking about a series of these micro decisions that leads to our macro decision. Okay, engagement point sets them into this next stage, which is involvement. Now they're involved. We're engaging their mind. They're investing mental energy in thinking about our issue, our topic, our organization, our offer. And that builds to this moment of decision. This is where we make our ask, right? When we make our ask, they have two choices to make. The one choice is no, right?
Right.
I don't want to give a gift. They return to the status quo, game over, right? Or they say yes, and they reach what we call the emotional climax, right? So this is the zenith of the experience for the donor. This is where they experience that intangible benefit, right? Now, depending on how strong that feeling is going to determine how long your conversion horizon is, right? Because if you have a very intense experience, that conversion horizon may last for a period of time, right? But eventually, friction in your process is going to return them back to the status quo because that good feeling doesn't last forever. We're busy people, right?
Yeah.
Especially if I have to go retrieve my password, like in my inbox or something. When I go into my inbox, I get 5 other emails that are competing for my attention, and I'm kind of like a squirrel. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm trying to figure out my seek and destroy all the things on my inbox for today. So friction will take people out of the process, and they abandon, and it's game over. Okay.
Right.
So this is what we need to think about that. And one of the biggest aspects of friction that's showing up is, again, the mobile thing. One of the things we discovered, 84% of the donation forms that we looked at are not mobile optimized. They're not optimized for these small devices. So again, they require zooming and pinching and all this kind of finger rotation in order to be able to fill out fields and give a gift. So big area of opportunity there. And then, here it is, the ugly value proposition thing rears its ugly head once again. So we saw that like half of the organizations that we looked at did not present a strong and compelling value proposition on the donation page. Now, if you think about this as if you're a fisherman, right? So if you go out and you hook a big fish, right? And you're standing on the shore and you got this big fish on the other end of your pole, right? You need to keep your tip up, right? And you need to keep cranking. You need to keep the pressure on. You need to continue to sell all the way through the process, right? Because if you lay your pole on the ground and expect the fish to swim in of its own accord, it's not going to happen, right? I've tried that before. Believe me, it doesn't work. So we need to keep that value proposition constantly before people at every stage of the process, most importantly on the donation page. Okay. And then the other thing that showed up is a sense of urgency. How about now? 86% of organizations did not have any sort of evidence of a reason for me to give my gift today. Because if I don't give today, if I say I'm going to do it tomorrow, chances are I probably won't. I probably won't.
How would you balance that sense of urgency about seeming too desperate?
That's a great question. I think that tone is a very important thing to consider with all of these different things. But I think we need to create a compelling argument. If you think about it in the context of I'm a donor, and every single donor asks the same question in their mind. Okay, maybe they never verbally, or maybe it's not even a conscious thing, but they're asking this question: why should I give to you rather than some other organization or not at all, right? Right. That is the question we must anticipate with our marketing and answer at every single micro step in the process. Every single micro step. So, when you ask about how do we do that appropriately, I think we need to test our way into that. That's where our testing can be very helpful. But the key is we need to give people compelling reasons, right? and compelling reasons. Okay. Last part, showing donors gratitude. So one of the great things that we discovered is that 99% of the organizations that we surveyed did say thank you when we gave a gift. Wonderful. What happened with that 1%? I have no idea. Shame on them.
They're
right?
not grateful.
They're not grateful. But one of the biggest things that we saw in an area of perhaps low-hanging fruit is this, that 63% of organizations did not have a next step for me to take, right? So on the donation confirmation page, thank you for your gift, love you, right? But why do we leave them hanging? Let's give them another thing they can do. You know, why don't you share about your experience on Facebook,
Right.
or why don't you invite your friends to follow your lead and give a gift as well?
Why don't you come take a Leadership Institute training?
Why don't you come and take a Leadership Institute training? Exactly. Do not leave people hanging at that moment where they have just like literally vested financially in your organization, right? So give them another thing to do. Okay. So this was not part of the study, but we just, after the fact, we got a lot of mail. And we started looking at the mail. We found that 61 organizations, or 41%, of the organizations in our study that we gave gifts online to actually sent mail to us. So good for them, but what happened to the other, you know,
right.
I can't do math. What is that? 41 minus, is it 59%, right? 59% did not. What was interesting, though, we did get mail from 48 organizations that were not in our study, right? List exchange.
Yep.
If you're not mailing your online donor, somebody else is, right? If you're not mailing them, chances are they're getting on some other list, and they are going to be mailed by some other folks. So, you know, one thing that we can do simple to integrate the two channels is when somebody gives a gift online, we can thank them offline, and we can also then give them, you know, future opportunities to give through the mail as well. So, final report of findings. The bottom line is that nobody hit it out of the park with this study. Right? So there was room for improvement across the board, which honestly makes me excited, right? Because optimization is all about creating a perpetual improvement machine. It's all about like constantly learning and evolving our understanding of our donor and making it better next time. It's looking at a 10% response rate, which is wonderful, and interpreting that as a 90% non-response rate, and getting excited about saying, how do we get the other 90% of people to say yes? So that was one thing. So I want to leave you, I've got a couple different takeaways. I have 5 tactical things you can do tomorrow, and then I'm going to introduce 3 different tests that you can do at home and with your own organization. So does that sound good?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do it.
First one, go to your organization's website and sign up to receive emails. We'll send you the slides, a copy of the slides after this presentation today, and score the value proposition of your email sign-up offer. Score the appeal. Rank it according to your ideal donors' desirability for your offer, and then also score the exclusivity. Is this something I can get somewhere else, nowhere else, or anywhere else on the internet? So do that. Next thing, with your emails, try to focus on one single call to action for every email you send. What is the one thing you want people to do? Try to limit some of the conflicting, multiple different calls to action that you have. Number 3, design your emails for mobile first. So think about it. If it works on a small screen, it'll probably blow up and work on a big screen pretty well. But make it so that people that are like me and like you and like most of us now that are viewing most of their emails on a mobile device can actually read it and discern the content of it. And especially is becoming more and more important because of the growing trend. Number 4, go to your website and give a donation to yourself. Note any examples of friction in the process. Is there any sort of excessive steps or clicks necessary to give a gift? Are you asking for too many different kinds of fields in the email that in the donation process that you don't need to ask for?
Right.
Is it really necessary to get like a prefix and a suffix on every person's name? Well, can you get that later? I mean, do you want to get the gift or do you want to get the suffixes?
What's more important?
Exactly. That's the thing that we need to think about. What is the best right objective at the time? And finally, number 5, don't leave donors hanging. Look at the opportunity to take advantage and leverage that thank you page, that confirmation page, that thank you email, right? Use that as an opportunity to give people a next step. So don't leave them hanging there, but give them an opportunity perhaps to share or to attend a Leadership Institute training or something. But don't leave them hanging there. Give them something of value. Okay, so those are the tactical takeaways, and I want to give you 3 different experiments that are simple experiments that I think you could actually implement probably as soon as today. and be able to learn a little bit about your donors and perhaps be able to experience a lift in results like some of the ones we showed you. So the first one is email call to action. Let's focus on communicating more value on the email call to action. Okay, so I showed you this example from earlier of the George W. Bush Presidential Center, and I told you I changed the one sentence. I didn't show you what I changed.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
It was the very final sentence. So if I blow up the final sentence, I showed you it produced a 139% increase in click-through and a 42% increase in revenue. Okay, so if we blow those two sentences up, the original final sentence, which was the call to action, read like this. Please accept this invitation to stand with President and Mrs. Bush by making a tax-deductible online contribution now. Well, that sounds like a typical ask we might make, right?
Right.
The optimized version read like this. Please accept this invitation to become a charter member of the George W. Bush Presidential Center. Subtle, but very, very impactful.
Yeah.
What we did is we said, let's focus on what is more valuable to the donor. Is it giving a tax-deductible?
Yeah,
Or is it becoming a charter member of the prestigious George W. Bush Presidential Center?
I would rather be a charter member than
And I would too.
standing.
And if we probably, focus group this out, we would probably say that most people would say this. But the beautiful thing about the web is it's a living laboratory. It enables us to peer inside of the minds of our donors. We don't have to guess anymore. We can test these things by doing a simple A versus B split test. Most email providers do this today, where it'll send 50% of your
50 to
email
one and
subscribers
50
to
to
one
the
and
other.
50 to the other. Do that. And focus on your call to action and just try to communicate more value about why somebody should click. Okay? So test number 2, this is also related to email. Sell the click, don't sell the donation. Okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, sometimes we actually hurt ourselves by conflating the objective of the email with the objective of the landing page.
Okay.
What is the objective of an email? It can be any email. What is the objective of the email? The primary objective.
Start a conversation with somebody?
Yes.
About a particular thing?
Yes, I would say yes. And more pragmatically, we need to get them to click. What I need to do is sell them a click to the next step in the process. I don't need to sell them the whole...
We need them back to home base.
I need to get them to the next step, right? I need to get them back to my website. So sometimes we give them so much information where they say thanks but no thanks, right? And they decide to just, answer your email by not responding.
Right.
Okay, so let's look at this experiment. This was one done with the Heritage Foundation. This is the first in a series of 12 end-of-year messages. We were going to take the learnings from this message and roll it into all of the future emails as part of this campaign. So there's kind of a lot on the line with this campaign because they have a very large email file, and this is a big fundraising time of the year. Okay, version A, the control, the whole focus of the content in the message was on selling a donation. Give today, donate now, make your end-of-year gifts, right? It was all about that. We said, well, maybe we should focus on just selling a click to the landing page. And on the landing page, we had this great video from Sean Hannity. We said, let's talk about the video, and let's invite people to go and watch the video. And they can watch the video, and then we can have copy that then takes them to the next step in the journey on that pathway that leads to giving.
Interesting.
So we set up an A-B split test. We had 50% go to version A, 50% go to version B. Version B, the treatment produced a 369% increase in click-through, which translated to a 121% increase in revenue. Now, let me tell you that this was a significant difference in this campaign because we rolled these learnings into all of the future emails in the series. This made them have the best end-of-year campaign they have ever had of all time.
That's incredible.
Right. So making small little changes in how you think about your marketing and how you position it before your donors can lead to significant gains and impact in revenue.
Wow.
And the final test is this, the donation page itself. Selling the reasons why I should, right? So if we think about this, every donor that comes to your webpage or you have a conversation with or you send a mail piece to, they're having this subconscious conversation with themselves, which is saying, why should I do this? Why now? And why you, right? I mean, why should I give to you rather than some other organization or no one at all? That is the question. That is the primary question. The answer to that question lies the essence of the value proposition, okay? So here's a test we did with Senator Cornyn's campaign. So they came to us and they said, we've got this donation page, and it's doing fine, but can we make it better?
Right.
I said, well, yeah, let's do some experimentation. So you can see on the left is the control. This is the existing page of how it looked. And then the treatment, we used the same exact layout and everything. We just simply added copy,
Right.
that communicated the reasons why you should give to Senator Cornyn's campaign.
Right.
So not that version A is, I mean, it's a beautiful page.
Yeah,
nice,
very nice.
handsome picture of the Texas senator, you know, standing up against a fence, as you might imagine, in his cowboy boots, right? It's great.
Very Texas.
So it speaks some things, but we said, let's give them, you know, I feel like there's a lot of times in our online marketing especially, we don't pay enough attention to the copy. We don't pay enough attention to the words we put on the page, but it's the words that actually move people through our process. So we simply actually conveyed a value proposition on the landing page. We did an A/B split test, so you can do the same thing. By the way, if you use Google Analytics at home, on your website, which I have not run into a nonprofit organization that does not use that, you have built-in A/B split test capabilities through experiments, I believe it's called in analytics. And there's many other aftermarket applications out there like Optimizely, and I don't want to plug all of them, but you know what I mean. There's some great ones out there. It splits the traffic. 50% of your traffic gets version A, 50% of your traffic gets version B. It's randomized, so there's no bias there. We did our A/B split tests. This is a cool one. 258% increase in conversion rate simply by putting words on the page, right?
That is incredible.
Now, we put the right words on the page, perhaps,
yes.
right?
I mean, I'm sure you tested
we went through
those.
a process and kind of developed the value proposition. But like the key is communicating the value proposition. Going back to the fish analogy, right? When you got that fish and you've laid into them, you got to keep that tip up and you got to keep cranking. You got to keep selling all the way through the process. And that's exactly what we have to do in our marketing, our landing page. So these are 3 tests that I hope you guys do. Now, if you can't tell, I'm a little bit obsessed with optimization, right? And if you can't tell, I get super excited and I begin to foam at the mouth when I start to talk about this stuff. And the reason why is because I love the work of nonprofits. I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. You're connecting with people's passions and you're giving them an opportunity to financially get vested in the work that you do, and it's so awesome. But I read this quote the other day, and it's not the other day, it's been a year or so, and I have never been able to kind of get over it. And it was Nicholas Kristof, he's a writer for the New York Times, and he said, toothpaste is peddled with far more sophistication than all of the world's life-saving causes. And that is an abomination, right? Yeah. I mean, doesn't that kind of chokes you up a little bit?
Yeah.
And it still chokes me up, and even though I've read it many times. And that's what I think we need to do. We need to up our game, right? If we're going to win, we need to up our game. We need to start saying, the adequacy is the enemy of excellence. We need to be constantly learning. We need to say, 10% response rate is a 90% non-response rate. So what do we need to do to make it better tomorrow to get the other 90% of people to say yes, right? So I love this stuff, and I love that you love this stuff. We had a little conversation earlier today, and what I want us to do is to begin to create an environment where we can share these ideas, where we can, and we've got tons of case studies and all these kind of learnings and stuff, and we want to open that stuff up to folks.
Yeah.
But one of the things we have to do is start testing, and I want to empower other people to kind of do this stuff, take some of the learning, build off of what we've already learned, and do their own tests, and then tell us about it.
Because there's no need to reinvent the wheel, but we all have to be thinking about what is the next step we can take to get to that 100% of the market.
That's exactly right.
However.
That's exactly right. So what I'd like to conclude with is just an opportunity for everybody. If you'd like to get the full study, the online fundraising scorecard, which we published earlier this year, you can get it on our website at nextafter.com/scorecard. And we're also going to provide, I think...
Yeah, Carol Way, who runs these trainings, will be emailing out to everybody who attended or watched this training. You'll be able to get it from her and check it out, download it, and what have you, and use it to your advantage.
That's great. Well, Kyle, thank you again for having me.
We do have one question from one
please.
of our guests. If we still got some time, so he asks, does every email have to have a call to action?
Does every email have to have a call to action? That is an excellent question, and I would answer that question to say probably not. We have actually just recently, this past week, we did a campaign. And in this campaign, it's a fiscal year-end campaign for an educational organization. And they had a new email sender. And we wanted to warm people up to this new email sender. So what we did is we sent out a piece that we knew people would go crazy over. And we had no call to action, and it was just designed to kind of activate the giving persona, get people excited about this guy and want to pay attention when we sent the other emails in the series, which will be making asks and having call to action.
Exactly.
So to answer the question very simply, I don't think it's so, no.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what we do here at LI is we will email like Happy 4th of July from one conservative to another. Just basically sort of keeping up that conversation with those people and saying, we're celebrating America's great holidays with you.
Excellent, yes.
To an email down the road, we're going to be asking you for some money. So
right.
here is a nice little sort of we're friends type of piece.
Yeah, it's you're building a relationship, and if you have a friend that all they do is
Right.
call you and ask for money, you stop taking their calls.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I mean, it's just this is people. So the biggest thing that I've learned through all this testing stuff is that people do business with people. They don't do business with websites. They don't do business with emails.
Right.
We're not trying to optimize the email campaign. We're trying to optimize the thought sequences
right.
and the conversation that leads people to say, "I want to give to you."
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great point. A great takeaway for this question is, we're not looking to ask people for money every time because I wouldn't be friends with somebody that tries to ask me money every time.
Like, get away from me,
Right,
Yeah.
right. So we have another question. What if you make small changes to your e-newsletter and it gives you positive results, but your boss doesn't think the % increase is significant enough?
Oh, that's a great question. So
How do you prove that's...
So one thing I would suggest every time you do testing is to statistically validate your results. You are looking for a 95% level of confidence, because that, folks, is like that's math. Nobody can argue with that. And allow the data to be the diplomat. Show your boss the test, show them the lift, this versus this, and show them how that you have statistically validated this beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is better than this. And if he still decides to go back and do the one that doesn't do as good, then you probably want to go to his boss's boss, right? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble, but this suggests that this is not somebody that wants to actually move forward, right?
Right. Yes. I validate pretty much any email I send out with the numbers I provide any of our coordinators with. Here was the open rate, here was the click rate, here's what we did this time, here's what we're going to do next time, kind of thing, to validate that sort of email send.
Because we're constantly learning, right?
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
The thing is we want to constantly be, when we get a good result, the first question we should ask is like, why?
Yeah.
Why this, not this?
Yeah, dissect
And that's where, so that's going back to Flint McLaughlin, that's where the marketer truly is the philosopher in the organization, because they're constantly asking this question, why? Right? We're engaging people's minds, right? And we're giving them opportunities to take action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Another question here. Do you have any tips for coming up with strong value propositions? Yeah.
So we actually we have a process that we walk through. So I mean, if you're interested in that, we have a value proposition workshop that we offer, where we actually walk through this process. But basically, what it looks like is this. I'll just tell you what it is. We sit in a room and we brainstorm. We come up with as many potential claims of value that we can make. So, for example, like the Leadership Institute has the best training than anyone else, right? Or I mean, again, we're not worried about validating these claims. We're just trying to come up with claims of value. Okay. The next step of the process is we have to score those in terms of the appeal and exclusivity of those claims through the eyes of our customer, donor, whoever, right?
Right.
The next step is we have to come up with as many evidentials that prove that that claim is in fact true, and these evidentials must be quantifiable, right? And the reason why we say that we're the best is because we have a 99% customer satisfaction rating.
Right, exactly.
People that go do great
9
things.
9 out of 10 people approve us for X reason.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you're looking for data to be able to back up that claim.
Right.
And so you do that for like the top 5 claims. And then you create what we call a value proposition argument. What you're looking for is an answer to the question. Why should I give to you, buy from you, download this thing, take this action, rather than some other organization or not at all? And the answer to that question should begin with the word because, right? It's an argument, right? Because we did it, because we did it. So you're building a value proposition argument.
Yeah.
And then that serves as the platform for all of your marketing. And you begin to test from that, and you continue to refine it based on the live experiments you do. So great question. I'm glad somebody asked that, because value proposition, we have found, is the primary factor that drives response online.
Yeah, it's content. It's what makes me emotional enough to give, or in our case, take a training, any of those things.
Exactly.
We have time for one more question. So so this person wants to know, how do you optimize for mobile? We talked a lot about it. You mentioned you should start there as your base. So how do you do it?
Well, if you're sending emails and your email provider does not provide you the ability to create mobile-friendly emails, go get a different email provider.
Yeah.
I think all of them should by now. I mean,
MailChimp does it automatically for us. I believe Paramount does it.
Yep.
There's so many different ones you can look at.
All the big ones do this. The small ones actually do it now too. I mean, Constant Contact, MailChimp, I mean, like they all have this capability built in. So if you don't have that built into your email sending tool, go get a better one.
Drop them, find a new one.
Right. As it relates to your landing pages, this is something where you do need to think about creating responsive design or mobile-friendly pages where you create either a different style sheet for your mobile device or you create it in a way, and your web designers actually, I mean, this is kind of basic stuff today. They create it in a way where it actually, changes. The page actually changes. The font size goes up depending on the size of the screen.
I know, like a lot of times when I go to a website, that's definitely not what I want to. When I type it in and go mobile, that's not how I want to view it because things are just too big and I can't find anything I'm looking for, and I'm just not going to stress to sort of pinch to figure out what I'm trying to do.
Exactly.
So, well, Tim, thanks for coming today. I had a great time talking about this. I love this sort of stuff. You love this sort of stuff. I'm glad we got to share with everybody. So. Thanks for coming.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Kyle, and I'll come back anytime. So,
cool. Well, we would be glad to have you. Now, if you want to continue this conversation about fundraising online, we're never done talking about it here at the Leadership Institute. You'll actually be able to watch this webinar probably at the end of this week at leadershipinstitute.org/activism-on-demand. Also, in September 10th, we have another great webinar on fundraising. This one will be storytelling as a fundraiser, how you can use stories to drive in that emotional appeal and have compelling content for whatever fundraising pitch you have. And that will be with longtime LI lecturer Nancy Bosker. That will, again, be at our 3 p.m. time on September 10th. And with that, I think we have come to the end of our live webinar today. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time.